So hey guys, welcome back to another interesting podcast. Today we have Utsav sir from Japan. तो गाइज आपको पता होगा कि जापान के ऊपर ऑलरेडी बना हुआ है वीडियो, बट ये वाला जो सर है हमारे, ये बिल्कुल अलग एक्सपीरियंस इनका है. तो आप अगर सोच रहे हो कि जापान में किस तरीके से जॉब लेनी है, इंडिया से ही किस तरीके से जॉब लेना है, अगर उसके लिए आप टारगेट करो स्पेशली, तो यार इस वीडियो के थ्रू अगर आप देखते हो तो डेफिनेटली देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ चांसेस कि आप इंडिया से ही जापान में जॉब ले सकते हो. तो ये चीज़ें हैं. फिर सबके बारे में डिटेल में बात करेंगे, सबके बारे में इन द सेंस कि वर्क कल्चर, सैलरी वगैरह, बढ़िया तरीके से प्रिपरेशन जो है, इंटरव्यू प्रिपरेशन भैया सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट होती है, तो उसके बारे में बात करेंगे कि अगर आप ऐसा करते हो तो फिर आप निकाल लोगे, ऐसा सीन है. तो बने रहो यार इस वीडियो में, पता है क्या करना है, कर दो, फिर आगे बढ़ते हैं. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for coming. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Samir, for inviting me.
Please, sir, introduce yourself.
Sure. So, I am a software engineer, and I started out by doing a BSc in computer science from Delhi University. After that, I worked for a year in a non-software field at Google in Gurgaon for a year. But then I realized that my interest was really in software engineering. So then I went for an MCA. I did it from NIT in Trichy. After that, I worked for about 6 years in Hyderabad. And then I got hired by a Japanese company. So I worked remotely initially from India and from Dubai because that was the time of the pandemic and the borders were closed. Once the borders opened, I decided to move to Japan. So I moved to Japan in the month of October last year. So I've been here now for 4 months. That's been my experience. I work here as a software engineering lead for this company, which is basically a Japanese company.
Cool. Nice, sir. Sir, suppose like I'm a student, and if I have 2 year or 4 years experience, so now I'm thinking to switching my job in Japan. So what should I do?
Right. So you have to consider a few things first. First of all, if you want to come to Japan after 2 to 4 years, it is possible. But I would suggest that you come here on a reasonably good salary. The reason for that is the salary with which you start, that will form the basis of your salary for the next few years, because there's not much increment that you'll get. I mean, there will be increments twice a year, mostly in most companies, but that will not be as much as you get in India because there's no inflation here, or very little inflation here, 0.6%, maximum 1%. Therefore, you don't need increments to beat that inflation. So that's one thing. Therefore, what I would suggest is you start with a higher salary. So you have to start with something around at least 6.5 to 7 million yen. So 7 million yen is about 42, 43 lakh INR per year. You should start with something like this. So you have asked for steps as to how you can do this.
Yeah.
So there's like a couple of things. So the first thing that you should do is you should look for at least 6.5 to 7 million yen salary. So software engineers in this bracket of 0 to 5 years experience typically get between 4 million to 8 million yen. Now, there's nothing wrong with 4 million yen. If you come here on 4 million yen, you can still live here reasonably well. And since it's a developed country, the experience of living here, personally, I feel is a little better. There's no pollution, for example. Healthcare is good. The commute systems are very good. Places are clean. So all those advantages you will get. But the thing is, you won't get increments because, like I was explaining just now, your basis for increments will become low, and increments year on year might be 1% or 3%. So your salary will grow at a much smaller rate, which you want to avoid. So if you come here on 7 million already, then you don't have to worry about increments every year and all that. So 6.5 to 7 is reasonably good. Now, of course, if you're from a top tier company and you're already earning, say, 30 lakhs, 40 lakhs in India, then it's different. Then I would say you should aim even higher, 8, 9, as much as you can get, or even more. So that's typically what you should start with, the salary in mind. And second thing is, there are a couple of websites. So you can go there, and what these websites do is they list all jobs based on the requirements for that job. So typically, one thing is not every job now requires Japanese, especially if you have a lot of experience. Then they are willing to relax their Japanese requirement. So you can filter out the jobs on this website by whether they allow Japanese, whether they relax their Japanese requirement and the skill set they need. And you can see whether that suits you, that matches your own skill set. And if that does suit you, then you have to apply. So generally there's like an 8 to 10% response rate on these applications. So I would suggest every week, as a first step, I would suggest every week, just apply to 2 or 3 of these companies every single week, at least. You should do more. And with your resume. So your resume has to be good. We can talk about the resume in detail, but the resume should have mention of projects, and it shouldn't be mentioning the project for the sake of mentioning it. It should be such that you really understand the project, and you are involved. You were involved in building that project, so you understand the technologies involved and all that. So anyway, and it's very good if it's aligned to the industry in which you're applying. For example, if you're applying to the gaming industry, then if your project is related to gaming, then that's useful. So with your resume, you keep applying to 2 or 3 companies every single week, and you filter out by the salary, because they'll specify the salary, expected salary. So you can choose the ones that are offering at least 6.5 to 7. And they will give that with 2-3 years of experience. Many companies will offer that. So not many, but there will be a few. So keep applying every week. In about a month or a month and a half, you should get at least a few offers for online tests, okay, which is typically the first round for experienced candidates. In the online test round, what will happen is you will get some. So there are 2 or 3 kinds of things that happen. One is they will give you a mix of subjective questions and some coding questions. So I think all of those are of reasonable complexity, not very difficult. For example, if you have prepared for top companies in India, which I think you should do, like you should continuously do HackerRank or Spoj or something to improve your coding skills. So if you have been doing that, I feel the online test is going to be really simple for you. So you won't require any complicated data structures like segment trees or red-black trees or things like that. It'll be normal array loop operations, but yeah, you'll need some logical thinking, which will be honed if you're basically practicing all the time. You would know that. So that's one part. The other part will be subjective based on the industry in which the company is located. So if it's a web localization software company, then they'll have something about translations or stuff like that. Just an example. So that's one part. That's one way of doing it. Another way is they might just have a timed coding test. So they'll have like 3 coding questions in 1 hour. Just coding, no subjective questions. A lot of companies are also doing this now. Again, coding questions will be of increasing difficulty, but even the most difficult one will be doable even without any preparation, is what I feel. Like if you're really prepared in India, then I think the difficulty level in India that we have is far higher than what we have here. So that's one thing. Another third kind is they might ask you to build a project. They might give you a time, say for about 1 week, and they might ask you to build a project. So there you have to take care of a few things, because everybody will get the project up, but you must make sure that it's well tested. These things they'll check, because you are coming as an experienced developer. They want to know whether you can write production quality code. So they're going to check if you have test coverage. That's very important. Then they're going to check your design patterns, how you have designed your abstractions. If there's too much of coupling between your code, things like these, they are going to be very careful about. Also, how maintainable your code looks, whether you have used TypeScript, like if it's a front-end project. So yeah, and that's the third way. So these are the 3 ways. I would say 1 and 2 are more common than number 3, but some companies also ask number 3. So if you are reasonably talented and reasonably, I'll not say talented, I'll say if you have like practiced reasonably well, because I don't think you need too much talent. You just need to practice, because it's not very difficult. Then I think you can clear this first round. After this, what will happen is they'll typically have another round of interview. So this will be more like a like face-to-face screening. So in this sense, they might ask you to do a coding question also in this round. They will actually. It will not be very difficult again, of moderate complexity, easy to moderate complexity. and they'll try to get a sense of your experience and where you have been, what kind of roles you have tackled before, whether you have what is your personality like, things like that. They'll try to understand. They'll try to gauge you as a person overall, and they'll try to see whether they like you. So typically there'll just be one person for this interview. There might sometimes be two, but typically there'll be one. Also, if it's a Japanese person interviewing you, there'll also be a interpreter. There are some things to keep in mind if you are being interviewed in the presence of an interpreter, because then you must speak slowly, because each sentence that you speak should be properly translated in Japanese. Otherwise, your interviewer will not understand many of the things that you're saying.
Yes.
So those are small tips. Those we can talk about in detail if we want to later. But that's roughly what the interview will go like. Again, if your skill set is good. And another very important thing to remember here is, see, there are people who learn Japanese and come to Japan. That's different. Your Japanese is really good. The next tip that I'm going to share with you doesn't apply to you. Okay, so if you're really good in Japanese, don't worry about it. If your Japanese is not good, your English should be really good. So why I say that is, see, that companies that hire people who don't speak Japanese, typically they are not just hiring you as the only non-Japanese speaker. Typically they are looking around for talent from all around the world. So they will have people who are from, say, South America or North America, Europe, all over the place. So now if your communication in English is not strong, or at least if that's the impression they get, then what they'll think is this person will not be able to communicate in a international environment, because different people will have different accents. So
yes, right.
So you have to be able to understand other people's accents, and you also have to put across your views. So unless you come from a Japanese background and you speak Japanese well, I would say your English skills have to be really strong, in the sense that you don't need to use big words, but you should be able to say what is in your mind. So it should never be a case where you want to say something, you want to explain something technically, but you're not being able to find the words for it. You're fumbling. Those things kind of go negatively. Again, if you know Japanese, don't worry about it. Then you can just speak Japanese. So yeah, but I think for most Indians, learning Japanese is difficult, at least for me. So I think that's why your English doesn't have to sound like you have studied English or something, but it's just that you should be able to communicate whatever is in your mind. So if there's some question you want to ask or something you want to clarify, just make sure you do that. So that's mostly what they'll check. They'll check your personality and some basic coding. That's the first round.
Wow.
If you do manage to clear that, there will be 2 other rounds of technical interview. And typically they're taken by 2 different people. One will be someone from the team that you are being interviewed for, typically the lead of that team. And he will ask you basically about the technical ecosystems that you have worked in. So for example, if you have worked in front-end development, they might ask you, okay, what did you use? If you say React, they might ask you some questions about React. If you say you used Redux for state management, they might ask you some questions about that. What did you use for the backend? Okay, Node.js. How did you do authentication on Node.js? Okay, this is the way. Okay, so what databases did you use? Okay, MySQL. Why didn't you use NoSQL databases? Okay, what experience do you have with using a cache? So all these kinds of things. So if you have really worked on projects, you'll have the answers to these. But that's what they're trying to gauge here. It won't be questions like solve this coding problem, but it'll be more like, do you know about this? What does this do? Things like that. Okay, do you know about continuous integration? What do you know about Jenkins? How do you set it up? And things like that. How do you ensure good code coverage in your application? What are some design patterns that you're familiar with and you like to apply in your project? And there are all kinds of questions that are basically theoretically technical, and also from your background. Also, they'll ask you from your project. So, okay, you worked on this project. What was it about, and what did you do there, and this kind of thing. So this will be like the second interview, and then you'll have another round of interview. Typically, this will be with someone really senior, and there might be 2 people also in this interview. So this will be, say, the head of engineering or someone like that, if you're applying for a startup. Otherwise, it will be the head of your function if it's a big company. Here, questions will get a little more general. They'll still ask technical questions, but they'll try to see how well you fit into their culture, into their company culture. They'll also try to find out whether you'll want to move to Japan, because many companies have a preference for that. So they'll want to make sure that you want to move and you won't run away. And that's about it. If that goes well, then finally you will have an HR round where they'll offer a salary, and then you'll have to negotiate an offer. And both parties, like you and them, they agree. Then then you get the job. Yeah.
Nice, sir. Sir, like now we understand like we can got the job. And how is work culture in Japan?
Yeah. So this will vary across companies, but typically the startups in Japan now, tech startups, are increasingly looking to hire international talent for their developer teams. So what will happen is there will be tech teams and there will be sales and business teams. And sales and business teams will have Japanese people. Tech teams will have international developers. So the work culture here is that communication is mostly in English within the tech teams. And if there's any Japanese communication, that's always translated. Then you would hear a lot about Japanese people working too hard or overworking. Personally, that has not been my experience. And and I know a couple of others also who also, their experience also similar to mine. So actually companies are very flexible here with their timings, software companies. So, and most of them will allow you to work from home, at least on some days of the week. And it's just a question of getting the work done, and not really a question of when you come to work and when you leave and all that kind of a thing. Yeah. Then there is some kind of hierarchy still, but I think at least in my company, the hierarchy is very, very less. So it's more like a flat open structure. And one other thing that I have seen is I feel that people are not so expressive in the companies here than has been my experience in India. Because I feel like if you have worked for an American company in the past, or if you have worked for an Indian company, I feel that people are much more vocal about their views and they have a lot more views to share. Whereas here, I feel that's a little less. So I look at this as an opportunity for Indians who have that capability to communicate effectively. They can share ideas and, become a leader. So yeah, I think that's broadly it. In terms of office politics, I haven't seen much of it yet, but I think there's politics everywhere, but I'm not sure exactly where. I have not seen it yet. But yeah, one thing we also have to understand is the competitiveness here will obviously be less than what it is in India. So in that sense, I feel things like negative politics should not be as much as we experience there. But yeah.
Nice. It's very useful things about Japan. And sir, how many salary we can expect from Japan? Suppose now I'm fresher and I follow all your steps like for interview cracking and also like work culture, and now I got job in Japan. So I have no experience. I am fresh graduate, pass out. Then how much salary I should expect it? And if I have like 2 or 4 years experience, then how salary I should expect?
Yeah. So if you're starting out, you will get something around 3 to 4 million yen. So 4 million yen is around 25 lakh INR. That actually is not a lot here in Japan, because for freshers I'm saying, because that's typically what everyone gets, and like at the entry level. So you can get by with that salary also. It's a good salary, and you can live well. There's no problem. Like you might even be able to make some savings every month. But I would not suggest that you come at this salary here, because like I said initially, if that becomes your basis, then your increments will also be based on that. So it'll take you a long time to grow your salary. So I feel you should work for at least 3 to 5 years in India, and then you should come here only if you get a salary of at least 6.5 to 7 million yen. The higher the better. I'd say 8 or above is better. But if you can get 6.5 or 7, that's still okay. And until you can't land a salary like that, you should keep trying. And I feel that you can get it if your skills are good, because I know a lot of people who have got jobs like that.
Wow, nice. And sir, till the end of the podcast, can you give some advice of our viewers, like if they want to do job in Japan, then what they should do, like in initial days?
Yeah. So I'd say don't worry too much about Japan first when you're like at the entry level. First thing which will help you anywhere, not just Japan, is like become really good in your skills. So, for example, you should choose your niche, whatever it is, mobile development or front end development or back end or whatever. You should become exceptionally good at it. So, like if you're working in a company, you should be that person in the team who knows better than everybody else in that team. Everybody looks up to that person for advice. That's the first point. Okay, so if you are in that kind of a position already, then it's fine. If you're not, try and get into that kind of a position. So what that means is question every technical decision that's made in your team. It should be like if somebody makes a decision, either you are convinced by that or you question that or you suggest something better. So everybody in the team knows that your technical skills are the best. If you can be in that kind of an environment and you're always updating yourself, it's not a very difficult thing to do, maybe 1 hour a day or something like that. And then you should have 1 or 2 very good projects to showcase. They could be from your company or they could also be from your hobby or whatever. So once you are at this stage where you have, say, at least 3 years of experience, okay, I'd say 2 to 3 years of experience, and then you also have a couple of good projects and you're really skilled, then I feel you don't really have to worry too much now. Now you can start applying, and like the websites that I was talking about, you just keep applying, and sooner or later you'll get a call from them. Then I think you should be able to clear them. Yeah.
Nice, sir. And hope so, guys, you will get all the information. For tech person, you don't need too much Japanese. If you are thinking to do job in Japan, you should just good in your skill and then welcome to Japan, right, sir?
Yeah. So one caveat there: if you're joining at an entry position, then I think Japanese is still required because a lot of people are hired for these positions where most of them are Japanese, so you need to communicate with them. But once you have experience, the kind of jobs that I would recommend you should go for, after 2 years or 3 years or 5 years of experience, there, if your skills are good, the requirements will be relaxed for you. Yeah. In many companies. Yeah.
Nice. And thank you so much, sir, for your timing. And guys, hope so you will get some useful information through this podcast. If you get, then kindly do like and subscribe and share with your friends also. And thank you so much, sir, for your timing.
Thank you, Samir, for inviting me.